Okay, and so when you're looking at something like this here, you see there's no horizontal shifting, there's no phase shifting inside the function, no vertical shifting, and even our amplitude doesn't change. The amplitude is 1. So the way that you would look at that is, again, you can like imagine you're dealing with your max and min, the amplitude of 1. Okay, so the first thing that we would do is find our period. Okay, so again, the period is 2 pi divided by whatever the multiplier is in front of x. So what's the multiplier in front of x in this problem? Pi over 32. It's that whole fraction. And so dividing by a fraction is like multiplying by its reciprocal, 32 over pi. So these pi's cancel, and we get our period to be 2 times 32, which is 64. So what that means is from 0 to 64 is one complete period of this function. Okay, we're using a sine function. So what I'm going to do from here is I cut this period in half, so 32, and then I cut each of those in half, so 16 and 48. So those are going to be where my critical points fall. And so what I can now do, bless you, is when I start with a sine starts on the midline. Normally it goes up to the max, but because of this negative in front, the next point's going to be minimum, then midline, then maximum, then minimum. And so what I can do is if I select the correct tool for sine, which is the tool that has the midline to the extreme point, either max or min, and I plot my midline to my minimum, it should fill out the rest of the sketch for you. It'll continue this pattern here for the whole graph. On line, you're going to see I have the line tool and then I have the sine and the cosine tools. And the reason I set the line tool there is if you want to use the line tool to mark your midline so that then you can do your, like again, max, midline, min, midline, max type of points, you can. If you do use that to represent the midline, you have to delete it before you enter your answer, before you hit submit. And the way you delete it is if you just drag one of the points off the screen, drag it off of the graph window, and it will delete that for you. Okay. All right, so let's look at this example here. So the first thing, we're dealing with a cosine function. There's no negative, so we're going to start with the max. Okay, and we need to know the period. The period is 2 pi divided by whatever the multiplier in front of x is, which is pi over 24. Dividing by a fraction is like multiplying by its reciprocal, so I'll think of that as times 24 over pi. Pi's cancel, giving me a period of 48. So I'm going to mark 48, cut that in half, cut each of those in half as well. And so that gives me my critical points. There's no shifting at all. My amplitude is 1, so my max and min will fall here. And so for a cosine function, I start at my max, midline, minimum, midline, max. And so if I sketch that, I get my graph. And again, what I would do on here is I'd use this cosine tool. The cosine tool has max and max, or the extreme points, max and min. So what I would do is I would designate this point, and I'd put my next point here, and it will complete this graph for me. Okay, again, you do have to be careful of where you're putting your points. Okay, so here you have midline and minimum. Here you have max and min.